I spent 5 years hiding the CEO's darkest secrets, only for him to make me his fall guy. He thought he was getting a standing ovation at the annual gala, but I had a different presentation planned. The look on his face when the truth came out was priceless. His name was Gerald Harming, 62 years old, silver-haired, the kind of man who quoted scripture at shareholder meetings and got a standing ovation for it. 3 magazine covers, a foundation in his name, the sort of person whose handshake made donors feel chosen. Behind closed doors, he was something else entirely. I knew that because I was the one who kept the doors closed. For 5 years, I was his cleaner. Not the kind with a mop, the kind with a password and a problem-solving mind, and enough loyalty, or fear, I'm still not sure which, to keep my mouth shut and my work invisible. I was good at it. That was the problem. It was a Tuesday night when everything changed. Past midnight, I was reviewing quarterly transaction logs, something I did the way other people check the news, out of habit more than necessity. Then I saw it, a pattern I recognized, my pattern. Same layering structure, same encryption signature, same routing logic I'd developed over years of trial and error. But I hadn't run these transactions. I pulled up the source data, my credentials, my workstation, my access logs, time-stamped and clean, showing me approving transfers I had never seen in my life. Millions of dollars. My name, his money. I sat in the dark for a long time. He called me into his office the next morning. Corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown, the kind of view that reminded you how small you were. He didn't offer me coffee, didn't make small talk, just leaned back in his chair with the relaxed confidence of a man who had never once in his life been held accountable for anything. "You're smart," he said. "That's always been your value." I waited. "The way I see it, you've got 2 roads." He folded his hands like he was about to explain a retirement plan. "You take the fall, and believe me, the paper trail makes that very easy, or you help me through one final matter, and I make sure you're taken care of, comfortable, quiet, gone. Prison or a payoff." I nodded like I was considering it. I wasn't. I spent the next 3 weeks becoming invisible. Came in early, left late, spoke when spoken to, gave him exactly what he expected. A man weighing his options, leaning towards survival. Meanwhile, I was building the last thing he'd ever see coming. Gerald's security infrastructure was formidable. Biometric entry, air-gapped offshore servers, a private cloud system that had cost the company $4 million and was, by every outside measure, impenetrable. I had helped design it. I knew where the seams were. Through a contact I'll leave nameless, a man who operated well outside the boundaries of conventional employment, I built a mirror access node, something quiet, something that didn't announce itself. It sat alongside his hidden accounts like a shadow and copied everything it touched. Transaction histories going back 11 years, 47 shell companies across 6 countries, the names of people I recognized from newspaper profiles and charity galas. All of it packaged, verified, real. I turned it into a payload. The company's annual gala was 2 weeks out, the biggest night on the calendar, Gerald's night. Every screen in the Fairmont ballroom would be running his presentation, charts, vision statements, the performance of a lifetime. I rewrote the ending. The night of the gala, Chicago looked the way it does only in November, cold and lit up and indifferent to human problems. Inside the Fairmont, it was a different world. 800 people in black tie, senators, fund managers, philanthropists, the architecture of American power arranged over past hors d'oeuvres and open bars. Gerald was at the center of it, working the room like a man who had already won. I was near the AV booth wearing a laminate badge and the expression of someone whose job was to make sure the evening ran smoothly, which was, in a way, exactly what I was doing. The lights dimmed at 9 o'clock. He walked to the stage. The room quieted the way rooms only quiet for people who have earned that kind of silence. He talked about growth, stewardship, the responsibility that comes with the trust of good people. I let him get through about 4 minutes of it. Then I pressed send. The screens flickered. He paused mid-sentence. A few people looked up. Then the slides changed. Not charts, not projections, numbers, but not the ones anyone had been expecting. Account numbers, routing codes, transaction logs in columns that went on longer than anyone in that room wanted to read. Shell company names, 11 years of movement, dated and sourced and cross-referenced. $43 million that belonged to the people sitting in that room. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then someone stood up, then another. The voices started low and rose fast, the way they do when confusion becomes recognition and recognition becomes fury. Gerald gripped the podium. He tried to speak over it, something about context, about complexity, about a coordinated attack on his reputation. The screens didn't care. I watched his face make the journey from composure to damage control to something rawer than either. By the time security reached the stage, the room had already decided. The Illinois Attorney General's office had 3 investigators on site before midnight. By morning, every account tied to his name was frozen. Federal involvement was confirmed by the following afternoon. By the end of the week, Gerald Harmon was the kind of news story that interrupts regularly scheduled programming. I didn't stay to watch any of it. I slipped out a side exit while the room was still in an uproar, walked 2 blocks to where I'd parked, and drove north on Lakeshore Drive with the windows out despite the cold. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like someone who had finally paid a debt they hadn't chosen to carry. My name is still in those logs. The investigation will get complicated before it gets simple. There are lawyers involved now, and lawyers make everything take longer than it should. But the evidence is real. Every dollar, every date, every transaction, documented, verified, and now in the hands of people whose job it is to follow it to the end. I didn't clear my name by asking anyone to believe me. I did it by making the truth impossible to ignore. That's the only kind of clean exit I know how to make.